For most of us, the search for meaning, for something bigger than ourselves, begins with ideas handed down to us. Traditions, rules, beliefs. But what if those very beliefs, the ones we were told would bring us closer to God, are the very things keeping us stuck, confused, and searching? Religion and spirituality are often treated as the same thing, but they're not. Religion gives us structure. It gives us stories, rituals, and rules to follow. For many, it provides comfort, a ready-made path to follow. But spirituality is something deeper. It's personal, messy, unpredictable. And sometimes it requires you to question everything you thought you knew. In fact, for some, religion doesn't bring them closer to God. It builds a wall between them and something real. So, what exactly is the difference between religion and spirituality? Religion is an organized system. It's built on belief structures, doctrines, institutions, and rituals. It offers clear answers: who we are, why we're here, what happens when we die. It gives people a framework, a map for life. But it's often someone else's map, drawn by prophets, priests, or ancient traditions. You're told what to believe, what's right, what's wrong, and how to behave in order to be saved, enlightened, or accepted by God. There's comfort in that. There's safety in the collective, in following a shared story. But sometimes, that structure can become rigid. The map becomes a cage. Now contrast that with spirituality. Spirituality is personal. It's not about following someone else's path. It's about walking your own. It's the direct experience of something greater than yourself, without the need for intermediaries. No priest, no guru, no ancient text standing between you and whatever lies beyond the material world. At its core, spirituality is less about belief and more about experience. Carl Jung once said, "I don't believe. I know." He understood that belief in secondhand truths isn't enough. Jung's idea of individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, was deeply spiritual. But it wasn't handed to him. It wasn't taught from a pulpit. It was the result of a personal journey inward, facing the depths of his unconscious, confronting his shadows, and emerging with his own truth. Think of it this way. Religion tells you about God. Spirituality invites you to experience God for yourself. Where religion offers communal rituals, spirituality often calls you into solitude. Where religion repeats ancient stories, spirituality asks you to live your own. Religion can offer guidance, comfort, and community. But there's a shadow side, a place where religion stops being a path to the divine and becomes a prison. Let's start with dogma over experience. In many religious traditions, you are told what to believe. The answers are pre-written, handed down like laws etched in stone. There's little room for personal exploration. Doubt is discouraged. Questioning is seen as dangerous. You're expected to accept beliefs that are not the result of your own inner discovery, but someone else's experience from centuries ago. But spirituality doesn't work that way. A genuine spiritual experience often begins with questioning, with uncertainty, with stepping into the unknown. And when religion shuts down that process, it locks you into secondhand truth. Then there's fear and control. Fear is one of the most powerful tools for maintaining obedience. Many religions teach that if you stray from the path, if you dare to question the rules, you risk eternal punishment, hell, damnation, or exile. Sin becomes a weapon, guilt a chain. The result? Many people live not from love, but from fear. They obey, not because they have found truth, but because they are terrified of what might happen if they don't. And when fear guides you, genuine spiritual exploration dies. And what about guilt and shame? How often have people been told they're not good enough, not pure enough, not worthy of divine connection without intermediaries? This constant pressure creates a deep sense of guilt, a spiritual wound. And instead of looking within, people look outward for permission to feel whole. Throughout history, religious institutions have placed certain people between you and God. Priests, imams, monks, gurus, figures who claim to hold special access to the divine. They act as middlemen, telling you, you can't know God without us. And so, spiritual authority is externalized. You're taught to trust them over yourself. Your own inner voice, your own deep experiences are dismissed as invalid unless approved by someone in power. But the truth is, no one can walk that path for you. Spirituality is personal. It can't be mediated by someone wearing a robe or holding a title. And here's where the psychological angle comes in. The psychologist Erich Fromm, in his book Escape from Freedom, argued that many people unconsciously avoid true freedom. Why? Because freedom is terrifying. It requires responsibility. It demands you make your own choices, find your own answers. And so, people escape from freedom by submitting to authoritarian structures, including religion. It's easier to follow strict rules than to navigate the chaos of your own soul. It's safer to accept someone else's version of truth than to confront the vast, unknowable mystery yourself. But that safety comes at a cost. Your freedom, your authenticity, your direct connection to the sacred. One of the greatest traps on the spiritual path is thinking you've made progress, when, in reality, you've only learned how to go through the motions. Many people mistake ritual for transformation. They light the candles. They kneel in prayer. They attend services every week. And for a moment, it feels like something is happening. But is it? Simply reciting prayers, attending ceremonies, or following traditions doesn't guarantee spiritual growth. These actions can be meaningful, but they can also become mechanical, habitual, empty. Awakening consciousness isn't about performing rituals. It's about direct experience. It's about confronting yourself. And often, that experience doesn't happen inside a temple. It happens in moments of deep reflection, pain, silence, when no one else is watching. Then there's spiritual bypassing. This is when people use religion, or any spiritual identity, as a mask. It allows them to feel morally superior. I'm saved, I'm chosen, I'm enlightened. They wear the label proudly, but underneath, they've avoided the real work. Spiritual bypassing is dangerous because it gives the illusion of being virtuous or awakened, while avoiding the uncomfortable process of facing your shadows, your fears, your unresolved wounds. Carl Jung warned about this. He believed that the person who looks outside dreams, but the one who looks inside awakens. And looking inside is hard. It requires brutal honesty. It means seeing parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. But many prefer the false light of religious identity to the uncomfortable darkness of self-discovery. And finally, there's the false sense of security that rigid systems provide. Many people find comfort in knowing there's a strict set of rules to follow. A checklist for salvation. A path that someone else has already walked for them. And that's understandable. The world is chaotic. Life is uncertain. Having clear instructions can feel safe. But real inner growth rarely happens in comfort zones. It often begins in uncertainty, in chaos, in the places where you feel lost and alone. As the mystic Rumi once said, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you." Spirituality, in its truest form, isn't about holding on to certainty. It's about learning how to live inside the mystery. If religion offers comfort, certainty, and belonging, true spirituality demands something much harder. It demands inner transformation. Carl Jung once said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." And he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing the deep psychological truth that to reach the heights of spiritual awakening, you must first descend into the darkest parts of yourself. True spirituality isn't about adopting a list of moral rules or wearing a spiritual identity like a badge. It's about facing your shadow, the parts of yourself that you've denied, repressed, or rejected. It's about seeing the anger, the fear, the envy, and the pain that lives inside you, and integrating it. This is not a pleasant journey. It's not about feeling good. It's about becoming whole. The alchemists called it solve et coagula, dissolve and reform, breaking down the false self and rebuilding something real. It also demands direct experience over belief. You can spend your life reading about spirituality, listening to sermons, reciting prayers, and still never have a single moment of real connection. Direct experience doesn't come from books or rituals. It comes from presence, meditation, silence, deep contemplation. These are the ancient tools that open the door to the divine. Not because someone tells you what to find, but because you quiet the mind long enough to see for yourself. In those moments of stillness, you realize you don't need an institution to give you God. You don't need permission to experience the sacred. It's already here. It's always been here. But you were too busy looking outward to notice. When you let go of religion, you lose the safety net. There's no longer someone telling you what's right and wrong. No external authority handing you answers. You're on your own. And that's terrifying. But it's also liberating. Because now, you're responsible for your own path. You can't blame a religion for holding you back. You can't hide behind a doctrine and say, "I was just following orders." Your spiritual life becomes your responsibility, your choices, your integrity, your growth. As Viktor Frankl once said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that's the heart of true spirituality. It's not about escaping the world. It's about transforming yourself so deeply that you become a vessel for something higher. Throughout history, some of the greatest minds have warned us about the dangers of mistaking religion for true spirituality. They saw how rigid systems could drain the life out of something that should be deeply personal and alive. And they pointed toward a different way, a path of direct experience, inner transformation, and personal responsibility. When Nietzsche declared, "God is dead," it wasn't a celebration of atheism. It was a diagnosis, a recognition that traditional religion had become hollow. People still went through the motions, the prayers, the rituals, the obedience, but the living spirit behind those actions had faded. Religion, once a source of deep connection and meaning, had turned into an empty shell. Nietzsche saw this spiritual vacuum as dangerous. Without living religion, society risked falling into nihilism, the belief that nothing matters. But instead of urging us to return to old beliefs, Nietzsche challenged us to step up, to become, as he said, the creators of our own values. In his view, true spirituality isn't inherited. It's forged. We are called to take responsibility for our own meaning, to find a personal connection to life that no external authority can give us. This rejection of external authority finds a parallel in the philosophy of Baruch Spinoza. While Nietzsche focused on the death of old gods, Spinoza offered a redefinition of God itself. For Spinoza, God wasn't a personal deity who handed down rules or sat in judgment. God was nature itself, the totality of everything that exists. The stars, the trees, the laws of physics, the unfolding of life itself. That is God. Spinoza's spirituality was not about worship or blind faith. It was about understanding. He believed that when we come to truly know the universe and our place within it, we experience a kind of divine harmony. There's no fear of punishment, no need for priests to mediate the relationship, just the deep, quiet realization that you are already part of the divine. To live in alignment with nature, with reason, and with understanding, that was Spinoza's path to spiritual freedom. And this inward, personal journey is echoed in the work of Carl Jung. Jung understood that many people turn to religion as a way to avoid the hard work of inner transformation. Religious systems can provide a sense of safety, a structure that tells you who you are, what to believe, and what your purpose is. But Jung warned that this can easily become a substitute for true spiritual experience. He introduced the concept of individuation, the process of becoming whole by confronting and integrating all parts of yourself, even the parts you fear or deny. He famously said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." And he meant it. True spiritual growth requires us to descend into our own darkness, to face our shadow, and to emerge transformed. Religion can often keep people from doing this hard work, offering them ready-made answers instead. But Jung believed that a genuine connection to the divine comes from within, from direct experience, not from secondhand belief. Nietzsche, Spinoza, and Jung each offered different visions, but they shared a common message. Do not mistake the form for the substance. Do not confuse religious systems with true spirituality. And above all, take responsibility for your own inner life, because no one can walk that path for you. So where does this leave us? Religion can offer comfort. It can provide a sense of belonging, a community, and a framework for life. But true spirituality begins when you move beyond belief, when you stop relying on secondhand truths and begin the journey within. It's not about rejecting religion out of anger or rebellion. It's about realizing that the deepest experiences of the sacred, of meaning, of connection, don't require permission from anyone else. And so I leave you with a question. What does spirituality mean to you? Are you living your truth? Or are you still following someone else's path, afraid to step out on your own? This isn't about right or wrong. It's about honesty and the courage to ask yourself, am I awake? Or am I just going through the motions? Because in the end, real spirituality isn't about believing in God. It's about experiencing what it means to be alive, fully, consciously, with your eyes open to the mystery that exists both within you and all around you. If this made you think, share your thoughts below. And if you're ready to go deeper, subscribe for more explorations into philosophy and the inner life.